name is Kyle, and joining me as always is my co-host Christian. Before we begin, the show was brought to you in part by Pete's Pub on the corner of Brady Street in Arlington. Pete's Pub offers daily food specials, daily drink specials, weekly trivia, and much more. More information available at petespubonbrady.com.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. My name is Kyle. This is my co-host Christian. We're both fans. It's nice to meet you.
Oh, thanks. That's very nice. I appreciate that. Nice to meet you too.
For sure. So, a little bit of background. So this isn't live. I think I got the chance to talk to your manager and kind of explained everything. So this is all pre-recorded. We do the show for a nonprofit station in Milwaukee called WXRW 104.1. So Chris and I started doing this for fun, like back in May, and since then, I mean, we do like 30 to 60-minute long interviews. We've interviewed like the mayor of Milwaukee. We just had Wisconsin comedian Charlie Barron's on. We've had like musicians, athletes, actors, entertainers. Now you're actually our second Idaho person on. We had NFL quarterback Jake Plummer. He's from Boise. I don't know if you're familiar with him. So we're a very Idaho friendly show. Just want to let you know that up front.
Perfect. That's the only reason I'm here. I heard you guys were Idaho friendly, so I came along.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, we got a very special guest today. This man is a stand-up comedian. May have seen his special Happy Face on Netflix. Maybe you saw him on Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, Conan O'Brien, James Corden, Craig Ferguson, another good one. You can catch him live here in Milwaukee on Saturday, March 4th at the Turner Hall Ballroom. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ryan Hamilton. So I had to give you your like official intro there, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. That's very nice. I appreciate that.
So you are currently on tour. You've been very busy this month. So Boston, Portland, Vancouver. I believe you have a show coming up this week in Aspen, and then of course next week in Milwaukee. So how's the tour? How's the tour going so far?
It's great. It's really great. Yeah, it's been nice to get back to work for me, and I'm doing theaters, which I love, and we're having a great time.
Yeah,
I'm doing long sets lately. I'm surprising myself. I did an hour and a half in Boston and in Portland, I think, which
that's a long time. You must have been killing it.
I don't think I'm selling the show properly. Too long.
And you had spent a lot of so Boston, I know so you got your comedy start born and raised in Ashton, Idaho, and you got into comedy like during college, was it? I think I read you started doing stand up when you were in college. You hosted a radio show, and then you started doing stand-up comedy like for your own radio show. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. Well, I was like 18 years old, my freshman year of college. I had a little radio show. A few of us did, and we decided we were interested in comedy, and that was the first time I ever tried it. I did it like 3 or 4 times.
And you're just like, damn, I'm really good at this. I got to keep going.
No. I was really, there are tapes of it that I don't think will ever be seen. But yeah. I mean, I've seen them. I can't watch them. But yes, it's not great.
It's not on like your sizzle reel, your early stuff.
I mean, that's so early. I don't even really count it because I did it like 3 or 4 times, then I didn't do it again for like 5 or 6 years. So yeah.
And go ahead, Chris.
Did you ever think to like maybe just say some of your jokes on air, just like read them off? Like,
yeah, were you using your radio show to like? Well, it's hard because you're not getting the instantaneous feedback of whether or not it's a good joke unless people are calling his radio show and being like, that was a funny one, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I always tried to be funny. I don't know. I was kind of quiet and shy, but really was drawn to like performing in some way, whether it was or expressing myself in a humorous way. I really wanted to be a humor columnist when I was younger, even before college. I wanted to be, I don't know if you're aware of Dave Barry, but he wrote a humor column that I would read every Sunday in the paper. So I wanted to do that. I thought that was a great job. So I called the county paper in Idaho because we didn't have a school paper, and they gave me a column when I was like 14 years old.
Right. I watched a recent interview you did. You said you're still an avid writer. You would like to write more, or you do a lot of writing like in your own free time and writing stuff that you haven't yet shown anyone. Is that true? You're still working on your masterpiece?
I wouldn't say a lot, but I'm thinking about it more and writing some stuff that's like, just weird essays or whatever.
Yeah. And you had mentioned, obviously, so you rang in the new year in a not so fun way last year, unfortunately, getting hit by a bus, which is another reason not to like airports. I believe it happened at LAX. Is that correct? And it sounds
Near
like, I
LA.
mean, you were back on the road in a couple months. Like you must be a monster at rehab.
It was a few months. It was pretty rough, really. I mean, it was January 1 of 2022, and I mean, my first thing back was the end of March, and I wasn't doing stand up. It was really, I was writing, and it was really a little too early for me to be back. I really wasn't ready to be traveling, but I was writing on the Oscars with
Yeah.
Amy Schumer, and uh, and then I kind of started to slowly get back, April, May,
Right.
slowly. Yeah.
And I'd read there was a period of time. Go ahead, Chris.
Were you jaywalking, or how did you get hit by a bus? I mean, if you don't mind bringing us.
No, I was in the crosswalk with the light, and I I don't know. I was walking to get a rental car, and I'd been in LA for a while, and I was walking to get a rental car to get out of town, and I hit the button, watched the light turn, and started walking, and I didn't see or hear anything. I felt attacked. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you?
I mean, I've driven through LAX a couple times now, and like, yeah, there's just a lot of cars going around. There's a lot of traffic, Kyle. You'll see in a couple weeks.
Yeah. This was
I don't
near
blame.
LAX. It was near LAX. It wasn't like
Oh,
I wasn't like coming from an airplane. I was coming
Right.
from a hotel.
yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
traffic
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Well, welcome back. Are you obviously? I mean, the good news is I've read obviously you had said you've never really had something that you had to talk about before, up until obviously this like catastrophic accident that thankfully you recovered from. So, I mean, I guess bright side is good material, right?
Yeah,
Last,
exactly. Well, I don't know. I mean, it. Yeah, it's strange. I did have to talk about it. I've never had anything like this. I had to talk about. I say when I'm performing the material, a lot of people said I would get a lot of material out of this, and let me be the first to say, not worth it. I mean,
yeah, absolutely not.
I would rather have done many things for jokes,
Right. So
Um,
is it true that there was a period of time while you were recovering, like you couldn't lay down? Were you like sleeping standing up like Batman, or like were you
oh
just
man, I mean, I was trying all sorts of weird in the hospital, with the bed. They have this perfect bed that I could kind of like get like a 45-degree angle on.
yeah,
But I was living in hotels with my mom because I couldn't travel because of my lung, and I just couldn't be in a car for an
right,
extended amount of time. So, yeah, I mean, I had all sorts of crazy things. I would try to sleep on a couch with crazy pillows. For a while, I had like an ironing board leaned up against a wall to see if it was like I just slept like that a couple nights. I wasn't standing, but I wasn't laying down either. I have all sorts of I mean, I had pillows all over my body. It was
right.
really strange, weird.
Yeah. How are you
Yeah.
feeling now? You feeling a lot better? Is it still a work?
I'm
You still got the aches and pains, or
Yeah, it comes and goes. I still have some. I've been doing a lot of traveling, and I felt it kind of come back. I have exercises I'm still doing, but you know, um, my I'm still working on it. But I think my physical therapists and surgeons and everybody have said the recovery's been really good. So
yeah,
yeah,
for sure. Well, I'm happy. I was and lots of other comedy fans. Out of all the comedians that this could happen to, why did it have to happen to Ryan Hamilton? I know that you can't think like that. That's a mean way to think of it. But, on the spectrum of people that should be hit by a bus, I mean, I probably rate me and Christian like above you on that list, honestly. So welcome
nobody
back.
should ever be hit by a bus. I
Yeah,
would
let's
not.
just say that we're a pro Idaho show and we're an anti getting hit by buses or anyone
Yeah,
experience anything. But you bounce back, very happy.
thank you.
So you're a road warrior. I know you started out doing stand up in Salt Lake City or in Utah. Eventually you moved out to Seattle. You've been in LA. I know Boston was somewhere you spent a lot of time performing in. You've been in New York since 2008. Have you spent a lot of time in Milwaukee? It sounds like you've gotten to go to pretty much all the major cities in the U.S. at some point.
Yeah, I've been to Milwaukee a few times. I like Milwaukee. I'm not super familiar with it, but I know every time I'm there, I always think this feels like an underrated city to me.
Right.
I don't know if you guys feel that way. Maybe
Right.
you feel like it's I'm sure you have a lot of pride in Milwaukee, and you should. I'm just there all the time. It's not a city people think about as a destination, but every time I'm there, I'm like, this is a great place to be.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know?
so Chris grew up, born and raised in Milwaukee, and he's actually been out in LA since the end of last summer. So, I
Okay.
mean, and I grew up in a small town, much like you in northern Wisconsin, about 1,300 people.
Oh.
So, yeah, and then gradually migrated south. I've been in Milwaukee since the beginning of 2016, and a lot's changed since then. I mean, yeah, it's one of those cities where it's underrated, and it starts getting like publicized that it's a cool city to check out, and then eventually everyone finds out about a city and they ruin it, and then they move on to the next city. So, but no, it is really cool. Do you have does your schedule? I mean, depending on your tour dates and whatnot, do you like spending a couple days in like a city that you're going to be performing in, or are you like getting out like the pretty much the day after you're done with your show, or does it really kind of just depend on your schedule?
It depends. I mean, I don't mind being someplace a day or two. I'm alone a lot, so I get I don't know. If I'm with people or something, then it's nice to be in a spot for a while. But if I'm alone traveling, I don't know what to do with myself. I just I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm
Yeah,
trying to build my routine and get healthy and like work on
right.
all these things. So traveling disrupts all of that. So even though I love being places, I'm kind of like I try to focus on getting my routine down, and even if I'm in a city, I try to work out, get everything in. But yeah, I don't mind spending. I'm going to be in Milwaukee 2 nights. I think I get there a day early. So
Nice.
yeah,
If you have any types of food you like the most or anything, you need
yes,
any recommendations,
thank you.
Chris is the Milwaukee snob. I
Oh
think, or
yeah.
he just purposely, if I say I like a restaurant, he just tells me, no, that one sucks. I don't think it even matters. I don't even think it even matters which one it is, honestly, Chris.
I've got a reason for it all. There's something.
Are you when you get off stage, are you like riding the high of performing for a long time, or is it hard to come down, fall back asleep? Obviously, you're not like some of the other comedians that drown their sorrows in drugs and alcohol. You're not living like the Chris Farley, John Belushi lifestyle. So I imagine you're just riding just good old fashioned natural high. Like, how do you deal like with the come down after like crushing it on stage? Like, what's that
Oh,
like?
well, that's very nice. I mean, I would say crushing it, I sleep better than when I bomb. But it's harder. It is hard. It's not an easy thing to just have this big experience and then have to go straight to sleep. And I'm
Right.
really working on that. Yeah. So there's really not a good way around it, but
Right.
it is a strange experience to do this theater, walk out, be alone, not really know where to go, not really know what to do. It's
Right.
very strange, but it's yeah, it's something I've tried. I anticipate now, so I know that it's coming. I kind of
Right.
prep myself. I go, okay, I got a book I'm into. I'm gonna do that. I got a little
Right.
treat back at the hotel. I know there's something I want to watch when I get back. So I have a little thing that I kind of look forward to. And if I'm touring with somebody, it's nice to go out just with a couple people and just sit down, maybe have a snack and hang out for a minute or something like that.
Do you ever
Yeah.
do meet and greets after the show anymore? Or are you past those days?
I like to do it, but since COVID, I just haven't got back into it. I don't know why.
Right.
And I've been doing more theaters now, which makes it more difficult. I
Right.
haven't done the thing where it's like you can buy a separate tier and like pay a bunch of money to come and shake my hand or whatever. I haven't done that. I
Right.
used to, before COVID had happened, I was meeting everybody who wanted to meet me, no matter how big the gig was.
Right.
And it got to be pretty, it got to be a lot. It got to be a lot of energy after the show. And
Does that help or does that make it worse? Does that make it worse? You're
it's
trying to deal
nice.
with ways to come down from the high.
It's nice. It's nice. I like to connect with people. but it is a lot too. I'm very exhausted after the meet and greet.
I bet. I get exhausted just going out for like a couple hours and being around people I don't know. I have to go home and I'm like, oh man, that was a lot.
Yeah, it's nice to meet people, and and you do get some energy from it too. But after the show, and if I'm doing multiple shows, it's much more difficult. But
Right.
yeah, hopefully in Milwaukee, I don't think it's such a big venue that hopefully maybe I can meet some people. Yeah.
Yeah, Turner Hall next Saturday, March. Let me get the date right. March 4th. So obviously Milwaukee, your favorite place on earth. Can't wait to perform here. All that good stuff, right, Ryan?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. What are you gonna say, Chris?
That's a pretty cool venue, Turner Hall.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very, very nice on the inside. I think you'll like it.
What
if Chris approves, then I know it's cool.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
exactly.
for sure. He would tell you if it sucks.
Yeah.
What like why do you do comedy?
Because he's funny.
Well, I get that, but not not everyone that's funny does comedy.
That's a very deep. You're putting a lot on him right now. Why do I do comedy?
I'm just curious. I'm curious, like what led you? Growing up in a small town, you've obviously probably had a lot of thoughts to yourself and like.
You think? What do you think we do in small towns? Do you think we're just like sitting there trying not to die?
Hey, look, I grew up in Milwaukee. I still have my own thoughts, but I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to think of to pass the time. You didn't have like cell phones. The advent wasn't there back then. So I'm just trying to figure out like what led you to be like, hey, this is I want to do that. Are you doing it for the people? Are you doing it for yourself? Is it advantageous for both? What why?
This reminds me of a moment on stage a couple weeks ago. I was like 45.
I'm not heckling you. All right, I'm not heckling you. I'm just asking.
I'm just saying it feels like it. That's all.
It sounds like good
question. It's a good question. On the surface level, of course, it's like that someone yelled out at a show. I was taking questions. I've been doing this thing where I do some questions and. I say I have a joke about how only powerful people really say I have time for one more question. Like you've never exhibited that in your normal everyday life, but you should.
Oh yeah, you're not like someone saying hi to you while you're out grabbing some groceries and you're like, I got time for one more question.
One more question, yeah. But so this joke sometimes leads to people asking me questions, and somebody goes, "Why comedy?" And I was like 45 minutes into my set, and it's like. I mean,
you should know by now, right?
Yeah, is it not apparent? I mean, but to answer your question, Chris, yes, on a deeper level, why comedy is because I don't know. I was drawn to it from a very young age. I just always was thinking about writing jokes before I even had an inclination to perform them, and I saw people. Like my parents would get me out of bed when I was young if there was a stand-up comedian on the Tonight Show to watch because they just knew I was fascinated by it.
Right.
And there was a bunch of cable shows on when I was growing up that I forced my family to watch about these stand-up comedians in comedy clubs. It was just like a concept I didn't really understand. I just saw these clubs on TV that were like, oh, there's a place where people go that aren't famous. I don't know who these people are, but they just stand up there and they tell jokes for like 5 minutes. And I just would watch it thinking like, I think I could do that. I know it would be difficult, but just something deep inside of me was like, that's something I want to try. But I didn't have any idea of a career or anything like that. But I don't know why. I mean, and I do think after doing it for a while, I mean, I felt like it was something that I could sustain for myself, like a creative act that I could sustain. I enjoyed it. I loved the immediate feedback. Writing in a vacuum is very difficult for me. There's the discipline that takes. So like a good creative outlet, it was like a social thing for a while. It was just a fun thing I was doing. And then I lost my job and I started to think, well, maybe this is something I should pursue more. So I started to do it more and more. But believe me, I question why comedy some days too these days. It's like, why am I doing this to myself? It's
I'm sure you don't like have those, you don't go through like bombing anymore. Like everyone who's coming to see you, they must know what they're in for, obviously. When would you say the last time you felt like you walked off stage, you're like, that was a bad show.
I
That
mean,
was,
yeah, it's I have weird things happen. Like if it's my show, yeah, it's gonna be like the audience is gonna be with me. They'll
right.
even if I make a mistake or I take some strange long tangent, they're with me, you know?
They're like, there goes Ryan again.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
like, oh, this is interesting. He's breaking down, but that's also entertaining, you know. But like if I'm doing like a corporate event or something like that, people who don't know me,
Oh yeah. I was watching, I saw your corporate reel, your corporate sizzle reel on YouTube. I was doing my research.
oh, I don't even, someone put that together. I haven't even seen that. I'm sure that's terrifying to me that that's out there. But um yeah, it's like those shows can be really great. I like doing them actually. I like the challenge of like going in
And not
and
everyone knows you any there in that
yeah.
situation.
Yeah, and it's like it's kind of like a puzzle. You walk into this event, you go, okay, here's the vibe, here's what I'm following, here's maybe something I can write about. How can I get these people to laugh, you know? So I enjoy that. That has become fun to me. It's like to figure it out. But it's a level of difficulty that's different than just doing my own shows.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, I'm waiting and I'm struggling and I'm like, okay, we're gonna back off and we're gonna go into some old stuff while I regroup and try and figure this out.
Right.
So, you know, but yeah, there's been some shows where it's like I feel like, oh, this is the I'm reaching, I'm struggling a little bit. I
Right.
I I don't know if the audience feels it. I don't tell them that I feel that way anymore. There was a time when I would call it out and go, "Oof, this is rough," and I learned that the audience will believe you if you say that, and then they start to lose confidence in you, and if they lose confidence in you, then it's all over, you know.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
What's so what's the difference? I guess let's say I know after Utah you spent some time in Seattle. Seattle, that's where you like you moved there because you wanted to get on stage like every
Yes.
night. And so what's like the difference, the comedy scene in like Seattle versus like Boston versus New York? I mean, I've heard everyone on the East Coast, they're jerks. You know, everyone in the Pacific Northwest, they all made grunge music and died. Like what's I guess what how did like the two areas compare?
Well, it's interesting. It's been a long time since I've been there. So these scenes, they evolve and they grow and they're
Right.
different. You know, venues open, venues close, different new comedians come up, rooms happen that are cool. So it's like, I don't know currently what things are like exactly, but it's an interesting question because there is an identity to all of these scenes all over the country. You know, some are
Right.
big, some are not as big. Some produce certain types of comedians sometimes, or they get certain types of opportunities. For me, Seattle was so productive because I didn't feel ready for New York or LA, but it was also a big leap. And I moved there explicitly to do comedy. It was a very strange move. And I did it for a year.
Out of all
And
the cities that you could move
yeah,
to do comedy, Seattle was probably not one of the more ones that
right.
usually people are picking, right?
Yeah. I was just trying to do comedy full time much sooner than I had any business doing it because I lost my job and I was looking for another job. It was just a timing thing in my life where I was like, okay, let's cut our expenses and focus on this for a year. And it's going to cost me a little money, even. And I thought of it as tuition. I was like, I'm going to pay my tuition. And it put a lot of pressure on me. And I moved to Seattle. And because I had that pressure on me, I was living in like a terrible apartment. I was eating like not great, what I could afford. But it put a lot of pressure on me. It was like, you've got this amount of time that you've given yourself. It's costing you money. And, but so every day I had to find a stage to get on. And I just knew I could do that in Seattle. I had a few connections. It wasn't so far from home.
Right.
I knew I would be able to get into this comedy competition festival thing that I thought might be an opportunity for me. It was just like, and there were some little one-nighter gigs that, you know, I could make $100 here and there, maybe. So that's why I did it. But that scene, you know, really pushed me at that time. Boston was like a bunch of firsts for me, where I was like one of the first times I saw comedy, one of the first times I did a TV set, one of the first times I did a comedy festival. It just happened all in Boston, weirdly. I never lived there, but I felt a familiarity with it. And I
Yeah,
lived
out of all the comedians that Boston would really like latch onto, yeah, you seem like exactly the type of comedian.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't know that they latched onto me. I mean, I guess they did. I have a lot of good memories there and a lot of producers who helped me out there. But I lived in New Hampshire for a summer doing doing an internship in college before I started doing comedy, except for those 4 times. And I saw Mitch Hedberg in Boston, one of the
Right.
first comedy shows. I think it was either the first or second comedy show. It gets blurry now that I ever saw. I think it was the first comedy show.
And I think I'd read he was one of your early favorites, right? Or were you more of like a
Yeah,
one-liner type of
yeah, that's
punchline, like a Mitch Hedberg type of early
yeah,
on?
that's the only reason that I ended up there is I was just walking by the club with a friend of mine and his headshot was out front. And I was like, that's the guy from Letterman. Let's
Uh-huh.
go see if we can get in. And they had 2 seats left. We
Nice.
just walked into this comedy show and it was like blew me away. I remember people laughing. I was like, I didn't know people could laugh like this. Just I've never really been in a comedy club and just seeing people doubled over. I remember watching the audience as much as watching Hedberg, and it was kind of a profound experience to me.
So eventually you made your way to New York.
Yeah.
Your special Happy Face, so that came out like fall of 2017. I remember watching it right around when it first came out. I loved it. I think it's harder to, I guess, you're the stand-up comedian. You're the professional here. Like being like more of a clean, I feel like it takes more skill to be a clean, quote unquote, comedian, because I feel like you can, when in doubt, you can like go to vulgarity or go in a direction where you're going to get some sort of reaction. And you had said that just because of who you are, your upbringing, where you grew up, that sometimes clean comedy finds the person versus the person like going into like that type of comedy and having that type of crowd. I mean, but I also know obviously you were like writing with Amy Schumer for a while and her style of comedy is a lot different than yours, for example. So how do you feel like clean comedy versus, I guess, funny's funny? Like, what do you personally find funny?
Yeah, absolutely. Funny is funny. I mean, but for me, it comes out that way. For me, it's not like I chose to be a clean comedian
Right.
because of a certain like moral obligation or something
Right.
like that. It was like it felt authentic to me. It felt like, and a lot of my heroes that I looked up to worked in that world,
Yeah.
like I liked taking broad observations and making them funny. Like I like that, I like the constraints. The constraints I feel like help me creatively. So I think that's kind of why. I don't know, but there's obviously great comedy all across the spectrum. It doesn't, I'm fans of all different comedians, and yeah, I think Amy's one of the funniest people on the planet. As an example, she's amazing. So it's I think that for me it just comes out that way, and I like working in that world. So yeah, I don't know. It's just the constraints help me, I guess, is what I would say.
And I feel like it would obviously makes it a little bit harder, takes a little bit more skill when there's some things that are taken out of the arsenal. So
yeah.
How do you who are some of your favorite comedians that are doing it right now?
Oh man, there's so many great comedians, but let's see. There's so many great comedians out there. But I don't know a lot of the new people anymore. I'm like graduated into this area where I don't see a lot of the younger people anymore. I'm on tour as much, which is so sad that I don't know this better. But
I mean, it's good that you're on tour though.
Yeah.
That part's not bad.
Yeah. That's good. Let's see. I'm just trying to think in New York, who are some of the people that I really enjoy watching these days? There's a guy, Daniel Simonson, who is so funny. He's Norwegian, and I don't know how much he's touring right now, but he really makes me laugh a lot.
Nice.
And he's got a very interesting perspective from being from Norway.
What's his last name?
Simonson.
All right, I'm gonna check him out. I trust
Yeah.
your judgment.
Yeah, and he's got this very interesting cadence with his accent that makes
Right.
him very unique. He just keeps popping into mind when you ask me for some reason.
Nice. Well, I think we got a winner then. What were you gonna ask, Chris?
I was gonna say, you mentioned, you've got like a very like clean cut style of comedy. Also, I'm thinking of like a clean movie. Also, being from Idaho, what do you think about Napoleon Dynamite? Was that
Oh,
like a?
yeah.
Did that set the state back a lot? Would you say the movie did?
I think it probably like propelled it. I mean, like that's like the first foray that anyone's really ever seen of,
Yeah.
really.
I mean, that movie was so interesting to me. I was at a premiere of that movie, and it was like I remember just going, "What? This
Like,
is like
what did I watch?
surreal." Yeah, this is surreal. It's like this is like imagine like your little town in Wisconsin
Right.
being exploded into like a comedy that really
Yeah.
had very accurate observations in it.
Right.
And so it's like it was surreal. It was just surreal. I mean, that town where that took place is like just a few hours from where I grew up. So it's a very similar kind
Right.
of setting from where I grew up. So I mean, I thought that movie was fantastic. I thought it
Yeah.
was brilliant and so funny. And I've met John Heater a couple of times. Very nice, funny guy. And so I respect those guys. I mean, I thought that was such a brilliant film.
Yeah. I think I saw that. That came out when I was like 14 or 15, and I was blown away just because I hadn't seen any movies that were anything like Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Did you have so we obviously grew up in similar sized towns. Did you have like those random like characters in the town that everyone knew? Like, oh, there goes so and so again. Like I remember we had like Benny the can man. He just every day was biking around pulling cans out of all like the gas station garbage cans. There was the Vasa family. There was like 8 of them, and they all just ran wild all over town all day, every day. Did you have those types of
Oh
people?
yeah. My grandfather ran we were one of the only families that weren't farmers, and but our family business, my grandfather's business was a variety store that lasted up until I was about 14 years old. It sold everything. It sold clothing, like,
Yeah, we definitely got a couple of those where I grew up.
Yeah. So my grandfather ran that store, and so we would see all the characters come in, and they all, owed my grandfather money or had these deals. It was just like, it was a very interesting kind of like, I don't even know, like Mayberry type of experience where you're like, everybody knows this person. Did you hear about this guy? Yeah, for sure.
And you get home a lot still, right? I think I read your family most of your family is in Idaho Falls, but you still have your like presence in Ashton where you grew up. So you split your time. You have your one foot in both these very weird worlds. It's cool, right? I think it keeps you grounded. But I mean, you don't seem like the type of person that you seem like a very grounded person. Period. So I don't know if like it's not like you need that to like keep your ego in check. But I think it's cool that you split your time.
Thank you. That's nice. I think I do need it. I don't know. New York is, I say that there's a different rhythm to that city. I like living there, but it's not my default setting. And so when I come back to New York, I get anxiety, my chest starts to tighten up, my thoughts whirl. It's like I can feel this rhythm coming. I say it's like getting into double Dutch. It's like I'm going to New York. And then I'm in it. I can't believe that I'm in it. So out of that rhythm resets me. And yeah, I like to get back to Idaho, and I'm glad my family still, we still have our little house there.
So Chris, I actually have a question on your behalf. So this is for him, but it's for you. So my friend Chris, he recently moved out to LA. He's taking some acting classes and trying to do a bunch of little things. What would your advice be to somebody who's trying to, whether it's get booked to be commercials, like film, television, like when moving out there, like what would you say the best route to go is for somebody that if they move out to LA and are trying to do all these things, at least initially to get discovered? Or what do you think are some good things to try doing for someone to try and get their name out there? Obviously, what this first step is trying to find somebody to represent you. Tell him the secret, Ryan. Be talented, step one.
I just have a question for Chris. Why acting?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah, Chris.
I get it now.
How do
Take
you
a
like
bite of
it?
my breakfast while you answer.
Yeah, that's good. We're all ears.
Okay. I'm
Yeah,
actually
that's a
okay.
serious question.
All right. It's just always something I've wanted to do. I remember in like seventh or eighth grade after school one day, really thinking that I mean, it sounds stupid, but I was literally just like laying down back on like the wood chips outside the playground, just looking up at the clouds and be like, what do I want to do in life? What do I want to be? And the first thing and the only thing that came to me was acting. I've always loved movies. It's always been something that I want to be part of, something creative that allows my ability to show through and
Right.
also be able to entertain other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I'm a big proponent of people going after what they are passionate about. And I think it's good to do it early in life if you can. I I think we have this mentality like, oh, if I get this done, then I'll be in a good position. Then I'll be able to focus on that. And I think life doesn't always work that way. I think you really have to go after the thing that you want as soon as you can. I was lucky when I didn't do that really. I don't know if I would be a comedian if I hadn't got laid off from my full-time job out of college. I just never had the courage to like quit or like I don't know. I was doing all these other things that I felt were the right things for me to do, but eventually I found my path, you know. But I was lucky at the time. I didn't have a lot of things holding me back. I had a little money. I had not a lot, but I had a good kind of solid base to work from. But I was like 25, 24 when I was doing that. So I was out of college, had done all of that. So not that I think that's great too, but I think it's good that you're going after it, because who knows? You just gotta. I think you just gotta do what you know is the right thing for you to do right now, and then see where it takes you. And maybe you learn something about yourself. Maybe you figure out a different way. But you got to try this stuff. And to put it off, I think is, I don't know. I don't want to force people. I don't want to sound like people should do these make these huge life decisions like I'm moving to LA. I know I'm supposed to be an actor. This is the only thing for me. I'm going to leave my family and I'm going to
screw them. Screw all these people. I'm gone. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that that's it's an individual decision, but and as to how to do it, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Here's what I tell. Do it right.
Here's what I tell comedians. I think this is the best advice that I can give new comedians is that you can only no one's been successful in the same way twice. Like everybody has their own individual distinct path. Somebody might get something early, somebody might get something late, and somebody might start in stand up, become a writer, start in writing, become a stand up, start developing digital content, become a stand up, become a sketch writer. There's like a million paths, right? And nobody has the same one. So the best advice, and for whatever reason this sunk into me early, I think, is that comparing yourself is futile. Like you can't compare yourself to other people. It's poison. And you can only focus on what you know is your own potential. And if you are achieving what you believe is your own potential at this time right now, then you're on the right path. Yeah. So you just got to keep working on that. And as an actor, it's great because you can really just become the greatest actor that you can be. And you have control over that. You can go to acting classes, you can write monologues, you can, work on monologues, even if nobody's casting you. And if you make your goal, like I'm going to become the greatest actor that I can, because that's what I'm passionate about. That's what you have control over. And then you can find success in that world. If you get cast in something, if you don't, it's difficult. It's not an easy life. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think there's a lot of satisfaction that can be found just in that. And if you're following that, I think it's positive.
Good job asking that question, Chris. He gave you a lot of good advice. I know.
Yeah,
I did it for you.
I talked for a long time.
No, I like it. That's good. That's good advice. I mean, Chris and I started doing this show as a way to be creative and do something, and it's been a lot of fun. And the goal, obviously, eventually, is to make money off of it. But until then, it takes practice makes perfect. But
exactly.
couple more questions before we go. So it's awesome. It is very awesome to both Chris and I that you and Jerry Seinfeld are friends, and he's a friend / mentor. And how did he discover you? How did that relationship start?
I have another good friend that I'm very lucky to have, a comedian named Gad Elmaleh, who you may know, but is a very famous comedian, actor, movie star in France. He has a series on Netflix called Huge in France that's in English, and he also has a special, I think it's called American Dream on Netflix. It's very good. But he came over to the States and pursued a career in English and was very successful. Like I said, he created all this stuff. But when he came over, he lived in New York. He knew who I was. I didn't know who he was because he's such a student of American stand-up comedy. He introduced himself, and I just said, "Thank you. Nice to meet you." I thought he was just a nice fan. And it turned to come to find out he's this massive star, and we became fast friends. And he's one of my dearest friends, and he's very close with Jerry Seinfeld. And so Gad had me open for part of his English tour in the States, and one of the shows, the last show, was at Carnegie Hall, and he had me open at Carnegie Hall for him. And it's an interesting gig because it's a lot of it's Americans, English speaking, but also his French fans. So, it was a challenging kind of set for me, but I really enjoy working with him, and opening and his audience is great. But we were there at Carnegie Hall, and Gad said, "Would you like to meet Jerry?" And I said, "Sure." We go into this.
Oh yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah. Okay. I'm nervous because I'm like,
it's Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah. Meeting Jerry Seinfeld, performing at Carnegie Hall. Like, there's a lot going on. It's kind of.
That sounds like that would have been a hard come down night we were talking about earlier. Those tough nights to come down from.
Yeah. So, Jerry's super friendly and nice, and loves talking comedy, meeting comedians. He's like, "Hey, nice to meet you. Have you ever performed here before?" And I go, "Here, Carnegie Hall." "Yeah." He goes, "You have?" I go, "No, I've never performed at Carnegie Hall."
No, of course not.
And he gave me some very good, specific advice, which was so helpful. Carnegie Hall has like these, it's built for acoustic performance. So normally when you're in a theater, you look into the wings and you see the stage manager, and you have like a little safety base over there. You're like, okay, there's a guy with a microphone who knows what's going on, and he's directing things. The other acts are in the wings waiting for you. You can look over and you can see that when you're in a normal theater. Carnegie Hall is built for acoustic, built acoustically. So there's like the wall closes when you walk out of the wall. It just turns back into the wall. It's like a door, and it's a long walk to the microphone. So when you're on on the stage in Carnegie Hall, you feel very alone. Like there's nothing, which is unique experience. And so he told me about that, and it was a good thing to have in my mind because I didn't know that. But as he's telling me, they're calling me my name like Ryan Hamilton to the wings. I'm like, do I leave to go perform in Carnegie Hall, or do I listen to Jerry Seinfeld? I'm like freaking out. Anyway, I do my set. It's a great set. Jerry's there when I came off. He watched my set. He's backstage watching me on a monitor, listening, and he was like very complimentary, so nice. And Gad has a fantastic set. We go into this green room after the show. There's all these people. There's like Jessica Chastain, Sarah Jessica Parker, the Seinfelds, all these people. Jerry's wife, Jessica. They're all very sweet, and I'm just like the last one in the room, and they were very nice. And Jessica goes, "You remind me so much of my husband." And everybody's like, "Yeah." And I felt myself like get like, "Oh no," like people
like, is
tell
this
me
good?
I don't know, what is this? And I look at Jerry and I go, yeah, I don't know. People tell me that sometimes. And he goes, really? I don't see it. And everybody laughed. And then like 2 days later, it was so weird. 2 days later, just randomly, I ran into Jerry at Gotham Comedy Club, and he told me some very nice things, pulled me aside and was like, told me some really nice things about my set and about what they'd said the night before. And then I got a call a few months later if I'd like to open for him. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, good thing that you were nice to that supposed fan from France, because otherwise,
that guy who liked you, you're like, yeah, who's this guy? But no, it all worked out. That's awesome. I mean, yeah, there's definitely some similarities. I think that's obviously Seinfeld's a pretty good guy to have giving you advice and having in your corner.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's so generous. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all your success. I know you got to go here shortly. So again, we've been talking to Ryan Hamilton. You're going to be here in Milwaukee Saturday, March 4th at the Turner Hall Ballroom. Tickets are still available. Did you have fun today?
I had a great time. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Great job. I love that you're doing this. It's very cool.
Thank you. Well, would you say that to everyone? Would you tell us that we sucked if we sucked?
No, I wouldn't tell you that you suck. No, but I'm glad you're doing this. I think it's great, and it's good for me too, to be honest. This is a hard thing for me to do. I'm not good at especially these long form interviews, and it's become such a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you. It's like, it's good for me to try to figure out how to do these. And I talked a lot, so.
It was awesome. You were quite charming. Well, you're cool. I mean, we've had some bad guys. We've had some bad guests before. But Chris, you got one more question for Ryan before we let him go? You look like you're thinking hard.
I have a question, and I also have a comment. So I was thinking maybe we should think about doing for people that are on tour, when they do interviews, we could act as a therapist, just so they can have someone to talk to
about how bad touring is and how hard it is.
Yeah, just as an outlet.
I mean, he's in Aspen right now. It can't be that bad.
Can't be that bad. No, I like I do like the little bed thing. It kind of looks like a wigwam. The thing.
Look at this.
It's out there.
It's snowing out here. Can you see this?
Yeah. Oh, that looks nice.
Yeah. But no, my real question is, living in New York, so you're a big pizza guy. What kind of toppings are you getting? What kind of slice are you getting?
Oh, I like a pretty standard.
You gonna say cheese?
Yeah, just a plain. It's pretty good. Meat, not meat, sauce and cheese and crust. If you get those three ingredients and nail it, it's unbeatable.
Okay.
True. I mean, that if it's truly good pizza, then the crust, the sauce, and the cheese should really be all you need to figure out if it's good or not. But
I think that's
Ryan, I know Ryan has a busy day of partying up in Aspen, having the time of his life, but best of luck to you. I think I am going to go check out your show next Saturday here in Milwaukee. I can't wait to see you, man. I'm glad you're back up and running. Nothing can hold you down. No buses, no Idaho animal, no bears, anything, elk, whatever was coming at you, nothing can stop you. So thank you so much for your time, man. You have a good rest of your day.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And great job. Really mean it. Best of luck to both of you.
Thanks, you too. Thank you. You don't really need our good luck wishes, but good luck.
Thank you. All right, bye.